It's a time. Package from China time. So let's go. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. In today's video, it's time for the new Powkiddy. And yep, I made an order on AliExpress because I wanted to have this thing as fast as possible. So when it comes to these devices, oh man, they're making so many of them, way too many. But what you're getting is always a question, particularly when it comes to Powkiddy. And yeah, when you're getting the first batch, take consideration, sometimes it's even possible that they will not have perfect firmware. I've seen it before and many updates will follow. So I'm just going to be doing this, let's say, unboxing review for you guys to see what you're getting in the inside, but how it also is when it comes to the package itself and the product. Because, oh man, you can just see me struggle over here. I am this guy. But this is the brand new Powkiddy, or the Powkiddy RGB10MAX3. Yes, I already did the first two reviews, and I can tell you that I was quite surprised by it. I can't get it open. Oh, there we go. Oh. Well, like I mentioned before, Powkiddy products, it's going to be a hit or miss with these things. Sometimes it's absolutely amazing, and sometimes it's absolutely one rubbish piece of crap. So first impression is that this thing does have a very nice weight to it, and the Max 3 is the new edition. Ooh, this thing looks even better than like on the picture. Like I have this translucent fetish thing going on. I need to have all these like translucent cases or metal ones. I love that. But the thing is, I think just the overall look of it, like it's this light blue kind of an overall. Yeah, well, you know, whatever, it doesn't matter. So let's do a quick, let's say, feel test. And yeah, it's kind of small, so the comfortability will not be the best so far. I can feel. Give you an idea, like with the Odin, it's bigger, so it's going to be more comfortable to use it when it comes to the shoulder buttons. So first of all, when you're looking at the shoulder, and yeah, we have this trigger look thingy, but it is not a trigger button at all. You can just feel the membrane underneath, where we just have directly a micro switch underneath the shoulder buttons. Not a bad thing. And the D-pad, ooh, that thing feels very nice too. The D-pad has a very nice resistance, and we do have like a little bit of a wiggly to it, but I really like it. So I'm very wondering, is this thing actually going to be performing great in fighting games and so? So at the left and right side we're going to get ourselves the Nintendo Switch looking joysticks over here, and yeah, there's nothing special about that. But how about the A, B and XY buttons? So over here we do have an okay, nice touch to it. So this is the wicked like feeling ASMR test. I'm just loving to pressing the button like this. And that has the reason because when you're looking at the form factor, but also the way how it actually feels when you're going to be playing and just playing and wiggling between the buttons itself, you can just feel it. Also when it comes to the travel is a very long one, and the touch itself, it's okay, you know. But it's actually what it is when the ABXY, it's okay. At the front we're also going to be finding the select and start, and they position them absolutely great over here. You can just press them fairly easy, and I'm very glad they did. At the bottom we're finding the two SD cards, and we're having two USB-C and stereo speakers, and they sound absolutely amazing on this. Okay, so on top we're finding the reset button over here, on and off switch, with an HDMI mini out and the physical volume control. When powering on, we're finding over here the LED, and to be honest, I'm not a big fan of having LEDs on the front. With the translucent case, it's not really annoying, but I'd rather have like an LED on top somewhere that is more easy actually to use, or I don't want to look into the LED, especially when it's going to be very pitch dark. You know, this thing is going to be annoying. Like many devices, it comes with the ROG chip 3566, that's a quad core running on 1.8 GHz, the Mali G52 MP2 for the GPU, a 5-inch display that is actually an IPS with a resolution of 1280 by 720, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth capable, and 8 hours of playtime. Today it's going to be a challenge recording from this device simply because of the crazy reflective front glass. But I can already tell you I needed to clean a couple of times, so it's not really scratch sensitive. So when it comes to, let's say, overall performance, yeah, we have all kinds of stuff that we can actually play. I think it's going to be great when it comes to, let's say, the 8-bit, 16-bit stuff, but when you're getting into that Thomas Wave, PlayStation Portable, there we're going to be having some struggles. So the menu, it runs all on GelOS, and I love this. This is kind of an emulation vibe going on. It's so much easy, let's say, to basically go into the menu and change things out. So in here we're finding game let's say aspect ratio, the filters, everything can be changed out throughout the system or in certain emulator. It's absolutely great. Sound settings, network settings in here. We can go to the Wi-Fi if you can actually. But if you're looking at everything, Moonlight, gaming, streaming, the scraper, everything is here. So it's going to be absolutely easy to, let's say, add new games. And if you want to start into scraping, you can do that fairly easy. So in here we're having all kinds of different games that you can actually play, but it looks kind of cool. If you scrape it and having the right thing set up, you can just have like a very cool text with it, and preview picture, and even a box art. And sometimes they even implement it when it comes to some movies, but that is not with every single system. But yeah, we're going to do some testing just to see what it is. The old school Atari stuff will run just fine on this, and the same goes for 860 bits. I will just check out some games, but I just don't want to focus too much on that. So one of the awesome features that's implemented in JellyWest is that actually when you're going to be booting up a game, you have the option to start a new game, and if you're going to make a quick load, quick save, you can just start from there. And then just the overall experience of the layout is so convenient and absolutely great. Okay, but let's do the first test, the D-pad test, the most important one. So if you're going to be playing some fighting games, I'm just going to be honest, I am not really excited. And it has to do with a simple reason. If you're going to be pressing it to a certain, let's say, direction, you can just feel that the long travel is not the right D-pad configuration for a game like this. You can just use it if you want to, but you need to put it a lot of force, especially when you're going to do a certain direction. For me, the analog stick would be more convenient to play in this situation. So when it comes to emulation, that is great. Yeah, the D-pad, not that much. But let's move on to a fighting game and let's see how that actually responds. Beside that, emulation of 60-bit is great. And also when it comes to, let's say, the aspect ratio, this is just amazing. And the beautiful display they're using on these newer generation things. But let's move on to a fighting game where I wasn't a fan of, let's say, going into the beat 'em up stuff. Let's see how it responds. So it's still a very strange, let's say, overall experience. But where I didn't like it for the, let's say, beat 'em up games, it seems to be working just fine for, let's say, fighting games. Need to get used to it, that's one thing for sure. But the overall experience is quite nice. See, and this is exactly what I mean with the shoulder buttons and the triggers. If you're going to be using the left part, I found it was very difficult to use it because of the, let's say, the distance between these two. It's quite difficult. Maybe more like a personal handicap of mine, but still I don't like it. So most of the time I'm actually using for fighting games, using the 4 front-facing buttons and the 2 triggers. For me, that's the best configuration. Absolutely amazing this. Okay, what the heck? I think a long travel, it's kind of weird to play like that. I'm really used to, let's say the other device I've reviewed, where they have like a short travel, even the ones that having a click travel, that was amazing. And yeah, CPS simulation is perfect on this. Fast loading times, everything, no problem there. So let's jump into some N64. Let's start with this craziness, simply because this is one of those games I've been complaining about so long. But you can just see that it is running so much significantly better than all the other handhelds I've reviewed here on the channel, particularly with this budget. Of course it still stutters, don't get me wrong, it's still not perfect, so games like in GoldenEye will have a lot of problems. That's the reason I'm always testing like the Cruising USA. I just love this game, by the way. The soundtrack, everything. It slows down, but not to the point I cannot really enjoy it, because in the past we have seen so many devices struggle to the point that makes these games unplayable. But pressing select start will give you the option to go back to the main menu, and let's get into, let's say, some other gaming. And you will see with N64 trying a different game. Let's grab Cruising USA World or Exotic. Oh, World is not on there, doesn't matter. Let's check out and let's try this one. But this is just actually a great example that when you're just trying a different game, the overall emulation performance is going to be so much better. So where it's going to be in hit or miss with these things, you can really enjoy some N64 on this, because the Cruising the World, but also Exotica, they run absolutely great with full speed. If some of the games will have a minor hiccup, it's not to the point it's going to be like completely destroying the overall gameplay. Man, this is such a weird game, by the way. If you're going to be playing this with the D-pad. So for racing games I do like it. Doesn't really help my overall gameplay. But yeah. But this is a great example how you do have some N64 games that seem to be running just fine. But when you're looking at the Jello OS, it's absolutely amazing. For example, when you're pressing the Y over here, we can have the option to even search. So let's say I want to be searching for the Gator pinball. If I'm saying it correctly, we can just go to Gator and just see what happens. And let's press enter. The game is not on here, doesn't matter, but it is actually kind of cool that you can just search fairly easy. And of course, make like you can make it even like a favorite list and etc. on this device. Okay, so if you want to play some Game Boy, I'm just going to be honest, like it's absolutely awesome to play actually some Game Boy on here. Oh, by the way, this V-Rally game has the best soundtracks I've ever heard of the Game Boy Color. Especially when it comes to the selection of the car itself. Some old school V-Rally racing games on the Game Boy Classic. We don't have any bezels. I think you can even implement those if you want to. Oh, the old days of racing games on the Game Boy Color, and they look kind of cool, actually playing this on this emulation machine. But still, if you're going to be looking into these games, I do want to like, is it not better to play them on those Game Boy clones than actually on, let's say, a landscape device? You can just a screen with having two black bars. Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense. So moving on to the Game Boy Advance, here we're having absolutely a better, let's say, overall experience due of the display ratio and the game. So I don't like playing Game Boy Classic on this. I do love playing some Game Boy Advance. And the overall emulation in combination with Jello OS and everything, it runs absolutely amazing out of the box. So that's just great. Whee! Another system I was really looking forward to check out is the Panasonic 3DO. That system had absolutely some, let's say, hidden gems. All-wheel drive helps. Okay, the only thing is like figuring out how actually everything works when it comes to, let's say, the controls. Alright, we can switch between all of the different cars over here. So let's see if I can get something going on when it comes to the game itself. There we go. Next up, loading times. Let's see how fast it will load up. I noticed when getting into the emulator, it took quite a long time. Ooh, you can just see that it does struggle a lot. Acceleration needs to be somewhere here. You know, and this is just pushing the device to its limit. This is not the way how you actually want to play Need for Speed. But if you're going to play, let's say, Need for Speed on PlayStation, that seems to, I can already tell you it's going to be running just fine. So which is actually the Panasonic 3DO, it's quite difficult to emulate. So when it comes to Panasonic 3DO, this is not absolutely the way you want to play. It's absolutely horrible. So moving on with some arcade, another system I don't play very often on these handhelds is Atomic for Wave. And Atomic Wave is a great system. It seems to be running okay with some minor hiccups. But the overall quality of the graphical part is not great. It seems like they've been tweaking with this. But I'm quite surprised to see that it actually runs pretty decent on this. There's some minor hiccups in the beginning. It seems to be that we do have the option to play some Atomic Wave on this. And that is absolutely a very cool thing, that we can finally have like a handheld that we can just play it. Combining with the display. Okay, wait, what just happened? It's absolutely a lot of fun. But okay, let's move on to some other stuff. Well, like I mentioned before, that the 8-bit and 6-bit era will run just flawless on this. But what is kind of cool that we do have systems like Sega 32X and Sega CD. In my opinion, there are not a lot of, let's say, good games on those platforms. For my original system, I also own like Sega or the Sonic CD of the Sega Genesis and all the other ones. But there are a handful I really like about these things. But it's just fun to play these games again. And they look absolutely stunning on the display itself. Just such a really cool experience. So let's get into the main menu itself. Let's lower the volume because the main menu music is still on. So we also have the Sega 32X, and we can just actually get in here. The game I love to try is Virtual Fighter, Virtual Racing. And also this runs pretty good on this, and that's absolutely a lot of fun. Loading times are quite fast, as you can see over there, almost instant. So let's crank up the volume. Did notice some differences on levels of emulators when it comes to, let's say, the Atomic Wave. The thing was like twice as loud. But for Sega Genesis, 32X, Sega CD, if you love these like devices for that, this is just going to be absolutely amazing. I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to this particular game. So one of those systems that run absolutely great on this is also Sega Dreamcast. We have reached the point with these devices that we can play all kinds of Sega platform games. It's absolutely nuts, and oh crap, I completely forgot my Super Ammo shield. But the Giga Wayne game seems to be running just fine. I don't notice any hiccups anymore. But let's also move on to some, let's say, the Dreamcast, some other games like Dead Alive, because those are like great benchmarks for these like devices. Well, let's lower the audio a little bit over here. But also here we're going to get absolutely great overall emulation performance with native resolution. Let's see if all of the buttons are correctly configured. I think they are. Yep, they are absolutely. But so far, so good. Let's see if I can do my move when it comes to like the flying kick. Yep. I didn't need to get used to the D-pad. It runs absolutely amazing. Alright, so let's get into one of those classic games, Rage Racer, or Rage Racer, how do you want to pronounce this? Man, this is absolutely great. They also implemented the audio file, so we have background music. And playing on this is just great. Native resolution. I think we cannot really upscale this. I think it's also not really necessary on the device like in handheld. But let's check out into the drifting. Yeah, it is possible to do. I already mentioned before, when it comes to the ABXY buttons, they do have a very long travel, so that makes it less comfortable if you need to like go, let's say, go between different, let's say, buttons. Particularly when it comes to Rage Eraser, if you're going to be like wiggling between the buttons to do your drifting, you can just see my thumb is like pressing onto the thumbstick, and this is just actually you have to do when it comes to like say the compact form factor of this. I also had this with an Odin too, but yeah, this is going to be an issue. Because this thing is my way. So one of the systems that absolutely utilizes the Display 2's full potential is PlayStation Portable. However, when it comes to the performance, yeah, it is possible that we do have some games that doesn't run that great. It doesn't spoil the fun of this because it's absolutely a great system to be played on the Powkiddy. Only in a couple of games like God of War are absolutely not possible to be played. Another thing I wanted to check out is pressing the left joystick. Here we can get into the menu of the PPSPP emulator. And here we can find what kind of settings you're using. There is no frame skip enabled, so that is absolutely awesome. It's very fascinating to see that we can just have this kind of a performance. Let's showcase the frames per second so we can just see how good it runs. And in the game a lot of stuff is actually happening, but there are no frame dips going on. So that is something you also can just play on this without any problem whatsoever. It's just great to see. And of course, if you're having less demanding games, see this select start doesn't work, so you need to go through this menu and exit the game like that. But bringing you back to the main menu, and from this point on we can go further. Okay, so where a lot of games will have problems, a lot of games will also be playable like these, let's say, mini games. And they are so much fun to play without any problem. You can just play this, and if you want to, you can just like use an upscaling. I would not really recommend it. I just leave it as it is. But this is absolutely cool. This is one of my favorite games to play. But in the end, there is actually so much that we can play and do with this device. I think it's more the question, what do you want to play and what kind of form factor do you like when it comes to, let's say, the way how it is. Your hand size, of course, because for me this is not the most comfortable device. Later on we'll do a chit chat about that too. But let's plug this thing into the HDMI port and just use this thing like a game system, because that makes it very cool too. Yeah! So what I did notice, if you're going to be plugging this thing into your HDMI, you need to reboot the device. So that's one thing that you really need to take consideration when you're actually doing this functionality of an HDMI out. So this is absolutely a very cool plug-and-play solution. The system itself will automatically shut down the display itself. So as the device has been booted up, let's plug it out and just plug it again. See what actually happens. So some of the devices will have the option to automatically switch when it's actually booted up. But you can see that it doesn't do that same thing with this particular device and JetOS. So that's quite unfortunate. Let's plug it back in and it will automatically showcase the signal coming from the device itself. So that's actually how it works. So if you want to plug this thing out and just go further in portable mode, you need to restart the software itself. So let's say you want to play some old school Nintendo DS games. You can actually do that without any problem, or so far I can see. Pressing the shoulder buttons here, we can map through or scroll through the different functions, or you have like dual screen going on. It's kind of interesting. So the right button over here will give you the option for one or dual screen and just switch. But with the let's say monitor attached to it, it's absolutely so much better. The weird thing is, oh, there we go. So we can basically get ourselves the volume changed out throughout the device itself. But the overall performance of Nintendo DS is going to be okay. This 3DS is no go, that's one thing for sure. But if you want to experience the old school NES games, and absolutely that system has an amazing library, you can just play it. You can just see that the overall performance is quite good. Okay, so let's say you want to plug in a controller and make this thing a fully complete gaming system. That is possible. So with the OTG port, I'm just using my old school Xbox 360 controller because I just love this thing and it's always compatible with all kinds of devices. So you can get yourself like a basic USB hub. In my case, I'm using this USB-C to like HDMI. Also going to test out the HDMI later on. So plugging this thing in the OTG port. Oh crap, pressing the button. No, I pressed the reset button. Oh crap, I messed it up. Let's do that again. So as I was saying, so if you're going to be plugging this thing in, it automatically shows that it's going to get power and connection. We're going to be plugging in the controller, then the software itself. If I'm going to plug it in right, yeah, that's like a right connection. It will showcase that it's connected with an Xbox 360 controller. If it doesn't work, you need to go to the menu, configure it, but this seems to be working just fine. And we can just use this thing as a game system. How freaking cool is that? And we of course can plug in a second controller and can just play through that. So no problem. Let's see where the start button is. There it is. That was kind of weird. I think that has more to do with the emulator itself. And this way we can just actually play all of our old school games throughout the controller and use this thing as a dual hybrid system. What a noise. What a noise, man. Oh, that's such a cool game. I can remember that I've played this in the arcade many times. Come on, bonus, bonus. No, I missed the bonus. I messed it up. Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah. Dual bonus. I found it always a very difficult game. Come on, there we go. There we go. How do I go further? I can't. Oh. But the only weird thing is if you're going to be plugging the controller out, I've been booting it up, you can just see that it doesn't do anything. So, reset. So that's a little bit of a problematic. That's something you should they should fix in the software. You can swap out when it comes to the HDMI and all the other craziness. Oh crap, what I don't need to forget is like plugging out the HDMI, reset it again, and then it will boot up into the JetOS on the handheld itself. Another thing I want to check out, if I'm going to be plugging in the OTG port, is it possible actually to plug this thing in and use the HDMI from here? Not that it's going to make any sense, but still fun to check it out. But for some reason you want to use the HDMI through the USB-C, maybe because the HDMI port is broken or whatsoever, but that is not a possibility. Even if we're going to be plugging this thing in with the controller, you can see the controller has been activated on the device itself, will automatically boot into this. Here you can see it doesn't work at all. I can plug it in, I can plug it out, but when it comes to this, nope. The controller has been recognized, but there is no HDMI out when it comes to that. Okay, so let's do a quick teardown. I know a lot of you love me opening up stuff. It's kind of weird because it's already like translucent. You can see what's actually in the inside. But let's open it up with this. And yeah, one of the things you need to do is removing 4 screws. The plastic is very thin, so you can just open it even with my fingernail. So I didn't even have any, let's say, pry tool. So when it comes to, let's say, the repairability, so the speakers can be removed, repaired. The same with the battery itself. They even implemented some, I think this is to do with the heat itself, but the battery is not hot at all, if you're looking at this end. But what I was quite surprised of the rock chip. I can even put my finger on there. There's not even a lot of heat coming from the chip itself, the Rockchip RK3566. Yep, I'm saying that correctly. Also, another cool thing about this, if you have any stick drift going on, you can just remove it fairly easy. 2 screws and then ribbon cable. So when it comes to this, it's kind of interesting to see everything. It's a very basic device. So the shoulder buttons are micro switch, where you need to do a lot of, like, pressing a lot of force to get some movement going on. With the, let's say, they're not actually like analog triggers whatsoever. They're just basic ones with a membrane. But that's actually going on in the inside. That's it. So let's put it back together and let's chat about a final conclusion. So where this thing has a lot of cool things to it. When it comes to the hybrid mode, absolutely very cool, let's say, looking case and form factor. For me, this is not the best and most comfortable handheld out there. I will explain what I mean. So where this thing is maybe twice the price, I just want to give you an example of like the size. So when I'm holding this device, it is very comfortable due of the height. And that is something I'm missing with the Powkiddy. And that is something they should improve. For example, having the Odin, another device that is slightly different, but also is very comfortable when it comes to the form factor. Still, the RG556 is one of my favorite ones at this moment, and it's absolutely great. Also, when it comes to the shoulder buttons, it has such a nice touch to it. So when you're having this problem, that you just need to press it a little bit harder, and that's absolutely a massive difference. However, I think it's still a very cool piece of equipment. Don't mind, like, the RG556 is double the price of this thing. But when it comes to the overall, let's say, the way how it works with the Gel OS, it's absolutely amazing. Plug and play, it works absolutely amazing. Beautiful display, good audio, not the best one. HDMI function and many other cool features. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? I want to thank you for watching. Consider subscribing and it would be great to see you in the next video.